All right, who has ever wanted to make sukiyaki at home? I know you're thinking of the song, not the song, the dish. Sukiyaki is from Japan, and it's one of those dishes that I find a lot of people order, but they actually can make it really easily at home if they knew what was in it. There's a couple of things that make sukiyaki, and I'm gonna take you through that. So the first thing we're gonna do is make the sauce. So we're gonna have the sauce ready to go. You've got yourself some soy sauce, sake, so I'm gonna add the sake in. Mirin is just sweetened like sake at the end of the day. And then brown sugar. So is that there is a lot of sugar inside, okay? So there's a lot of sugar, and that's what makes sukiyaki. We're gonna also use some dashi, which is stock, Japanese stock. If you've got regular chicken stock at home, that's good too. It's really up to you what you wanna do. But I've got a big clump of brown sugar that I'm gonna kind of attack and then let it slowly dissolve while we make the rest of everything else. Got myself a little bit of beef too. So you can use beef, you can use whatever kind of meat that you want. You can even use chicken, fish too. And then mushrooms, tofu, more mushrooms, Napa cabbage, ooh, a leek, and then the most important, which is our noodles. So I'm probably gonna butcher it if I say it the right way, but I mean, there's different ways of calling this noodle. I call it konnyaku, okay? Konnyaku is this kind of plant, I believe, that they make this out of. It's very chewy, it's gluten-free, it's great. I need people to realize that this stuff stinks when you open it, and that the only way that you can use it is if you boil it or soak it in a little bit of hot water before you do it. So I have boiling water going on, and I'm gonna actually put that in there while we get everything else ready so that it can soak. I'm just gonna cut that guy open. And then just so that you can see what it looks like, it's like that. Just gonna let that soak, kind of get that earthiness out of it. Okay, so let's take care of the rest of our ingredients. Mushrooms, shiitake mushrooms, these are fresh shiitake. If you don't have fresh, you can use dry, just reconstitute them in a little bit of water. How do we know if we can use the stem of this shiitake? If I push at it, you'll notice it's doing absolutely nothing. It's not even breaking apart. That means it's probably a little too tough to eat. So what I would do is take off your shiitake stems, and you can make a stock out of it if you want, or you can just throw them out. So if you notice, what I'm doing is I'm just pushing with my thumb, and that stem will twist right off, just like that. If you can't find shiitake, you can use cremini, you can use button, you can use oyster. You can really use a whole host of different mushrooms to make sukiyaki. So I'm gonna get these mushrooms ready, and I'm gonna slice them. So I'm just gonna do a quick slice on all of them for when we start cooking, okay? And then I've got my 3 veggies ready to go, okay? These are chrysanthemum leaves. Chrysanthemum leaves, don't have any, perfectly fine. Use spinach. Spinach would work. I love leaves. So if you've never had them before and you see them, try buying them. Sometimes they're called daisy crowns. Oh, why? We're gonna add that as well. And then your Napa cabbage, that for the chrysanthemum leaves, I don't usually cut them. For the Napa cabbage, I will though. So I'm gonna cut off the stem portion, and I'm gonna cut it into about 1-inch pieces. You're not gonna use all of it. I like cabbage, and so I probably could use all of this. What you'll notice with Napa cabbage is that it tends to break down as you cook it. So if you have this much cabbage, it'll reduce to maybe like that much, just like spinach does. And Napa does it more than regular cabbage does, just because it's got that fine inside and the leaves are a little bit more fine. All right, so there's our Napa cabbage ready to go. Now comes our leek. When I grew up having sukiyaki in Taiwan, my sukiyaki always had leeks leeks, green onions, scallions, and negi. Leeks were the ones that I kind of substitute here for the negi. Negi is actually the one that you use. And negi is a green onion that's in between a scallion and a leek. So it's right in between sizes of this. This guy is not clean though. So I'm gonna show you how you clean it. I'm gonna first move my cabbage back onto my baking sheet. So if you have, you're doing something like this, it's like a hot pot style almost, where you have everything chopped up and when you're ready to cook, you can just adding them. So for my leek, I'm gonna take off the end. So that's the part that it grew. This whole white portion is probably useless except for in stock, because as much as you cook it, it's still kind of gristly. So you can use that for stock though, it's really good. Now I'm gonna cut this in half just so that it's easier to work with. I'm gonna slice through the middle, and then you'll notice there's all these cool pages. That's where the dirt hangs out, you guys. So what we're gonna do is we're gonna actually, we're gonna slice this. I've got myself a big pot of water, and I'm gonna just put them inside, okay? So I'm gonna cut this one now too. I'll flip them over. So the whiter it is, the stronger flavor it'll be. And if you don't have a leek, you can use an onion. Onions are really good for this too. All right. So I'm gonna add that in there. And then what I'm gonna do is I'm gonna squish with my hands, okay? What I'm doing is I'm loosening all the dirt that might be hanging out in between the leeks. So now all I have to do is just ladle them up like that. Or if you have a strainer, you can just go in and just ladle them up, and you'll notice the dirt on the very bottom. All right, one last thing to chop up and then we can get cooking. Tofu. I love silken soft tofu, everyone. So that's what I'm using. Most of the time they'll tell you to use firm tofu because if you use something soft, it might break up. I don't feel like it does. I find that having soft tofu for something like this just tastes so much better because it's so delicate. All right, so we're gonna heat up our pan now and we're gonna coat it with oil once it's hot. So I think that's pretty. Meat first. So I got my pair of chopsticks ready to go, and I have this thin sliced beef that you can buy at most Asian markets. But even Trader Joe's has like a thin sliced beef now that they use for, I think, Philly cheesesteaks. That would work really well too. So I'm cooking this really, really quick. If you don't cook it through all the way, it's fine. I just don't want this to overcook in the sukiyaki, and that's why I cook this separately on the side. And you can use different meat. Like if you wanted to use chicken, you can use chicken, you can use pork, you can really use any kind of meat you want. Here. Now that's done, I'm gonna pull it out. And I'm gonna add, my leeks are kind of like my onion, so it's really gonna build some flavor for me if I add them. Be careful though, especially if they're wet. And my mushrooms. I'm gonna give that a good. To speed up the cooking process, you can always put a lid on things and it'll kind of consolidate that heat for you and cook things a little bit faster. So I let that go. Added my mushrooms in, those are nice and soft. I am going to add my cabbage. A nice color going on my mushrooms. My cabbage. I'm gonna add my chrysanthemum greens, and all I'm gonna do is this. You can cut it if you want, but I find just breaking it because it cooks down to almost nothing. And then I'm gonna layer in my drizzle my sauce right on top. Actually, before I do that, I'm going to put in my enoki mushrooms too. So if you enoki mushrooms come like this, I'm gonna hand. And then I'm gonna add my sauce. I'm gonna add my stock. So I have dashi. Like that. And I'm gonna add my noodles in there as well. And at the very end, I'm gonna put the meat right on top so that it's not gonna overcook. I'm gonna for about 2 minutes. All right, everyone, so it's been 2 minutes and let's see what it looks like. Ta-da! So there you have sukiyaki ready to go. Serve it with a bowl of rice, maybe an egg, and you've got dinner ready to go. See you next time.